Hi, and welcome to this live reading from The Monkey Island Murder, a Sparky of Bunky Hill Mystery by Rosalind Barden. And this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Prologue. I think this was the worst day of my life. I know I'm only 11, but still, can I tell you about it? It seemed like a dream that I saw in flashes. What? Okay, there were actually flashes of light with the cop spotlight swinging over the drizzling September sky, searching for Bookie, clinging to the roof of the Monkey Island building in the flatlands of downtown Los Angeles, 1932. Most of the roof was glass, so when the spotlight hit the glass panes, it was like it hit mirrors, lighting them up extra bright and flashing in my eyes, blinding me for a second, even though I squinted. There, I spotted Boogie's foot, then his hand. His fedora rolled along the steep glass roof and tumbled down to where Mug, the overgrown cop, stood shouting up at Bookie. I worried Bookie would slide off. Why did it have to rain now? It was only a light drizzle, but it was enough to make the slanted glass panes Bookie clung to as slick as grease. Like I said, this was the worst day of my life, but even worse for Bookie. Then the spotlight found Bookie and fixed a round glowing circle over him. His fingers were digging into the metal strips that held the glass roof together. His shoes were digging carefully against the wet glass, trying to push himself up. His thick black hair stuck up in all directions. His nice suit he'd only just stolen was a rumpled mess. What was he crying? Bookie crying? That never happened. The drizzle got heavier. I saw water running off the glass roof. Please, Bookie, please hold on. Mug was shouting things at him. There was so much noise and commotion with dozens of cop cars, 100 cops, reporters, looky-loos, snoopers, laughing idiots. It was hard to hear anything. Lots in the crowd were pointing up at Bookie and yelling things like, "There's the murderer! Don't let him get away!" Bookie wasn't the murderer. I should know. I was there. Well, okay, I didn't actually see everything, but I was sure it wasn't Bookie. It couldn't be. I listened hard. It sounded like Mug was calling Bookie Sue. What? I must have been hearing that wrong. Oh, come on, relax. Hey, Sue, I got your favorite cell all warmed up and ready for you. The one with the window that you like. Got a hot drink and a sandwich and a nice cozy blankie all for you. I'm scared. That was Bookie, my Bookie, who'd rather jump into a pit of lava than say anything like he was scared. Now, in the glare of the spotlight, I saw Bookie, for sure, was crying. I know. Hey, Sue, I'll be here. Don't worry. I don't want to go back. I don't want to. It was like my Bookie turned into a little kid. Did Mug lock Bookie up a few times in the good old days when Bookie was a little criminal like me? But not like me because I'd never been caught, never been locked in the big house like Bookie. I came pretty close this summer after being framed for killing about 1 million people, but I slipped through Mug's big fingers. One thing I knew, Bookie vowed never to be locked up again. As Mug shouted cheerful words about the nice, warm cell waiting for Bookie and called him Sue of all things, and Bookie sobbed back at him, I spotted a tall, skinny character I never liked to spot. Whisper, Whisper, the City Hall fixer who pulled the puppet strings behind City Hall's closed doors. Let's just say, Sparky wasn't his favorite kid. I'd caused him plenty of grief this summer by messing with his schemes. With him were his 2 kid cops who were firmly in his pocket and did whatever he said. To hide, I slid under a parked cop car. It was like a stinky lake under there. The huge puddle soaked through my white sailor dress. At least I could still see them. I hoped they couldn't see me. Wait, Something was wrong. A danger alert went off in my head. The kid cop who'd blasted the pistol-toting floozy this summer with a rifle after a nod from Whisper Whisper was holding his rifle again, with rain dripping down the brim of his cop hat. The rifle kid cop looked up at Whisper Whisper, who was taller than the kid cops. Whisper Whisper's long neck with his bobbing Adam's apple was craned back, looking up at Bookie. Rain ran along the brim of his Panama fedora to dribble down the back of his neck. Angrily, he pulled his fedora off his blond head. He shook it, but too late. It had lost its shape from the rain. Whisper Whisper noticed the kid cop looking up at him. He looked down at the kid, frowned at his wet fedora. Then he made a small nod, so small you'd missed it, unless you were looking straight at him like I was. I recognized that nod. It was the same nod Whisper Whisper made this summer right up before the kid cop took the bullseye's rifle shot that knocked the floozy down. Permanently. This same kid cop was now pointing his rifle up at Bookie, sobbing in the glare of the spotlight. Bookie was an easy target. Oh, no. No, no, no. Bookie always said to be careful about acting too crazy, especially when people were looking, because that was the difference between going to the loony bin or the jail pen, and as bad as both were, the bin was worse than the pen. Sorry, Bookie. Crazy was called for now. Jumped out from under the cop car, jumped on the kid cop, and bit his hand as hard as I could. The rifle shot exploded as the kid cop fell back. I took my teeth off his hand so I could turn around to see if he hit Bookie. My ears rang from the rifle shot, but I could still hear screams and running feet. Then I saw Bookie. He was holding on. No. Wait, he was sliding. Sliding. He kept sliding until he slid off the roof directly toward Mug, who looked terrified but held out his arms like he was trying to catch Bookie. Bookie slammed into Mug, knocking the giant cop to the ground. Sparky! Whisper Whisper snarled. Get her! The rifle cop was still under me, moaning. The crazy girl bit me. Get her off! The other kid cop leapt at me, but I was faster. Whisper Whisper joined the chase, but being small has its advantages. I zipped and dodged in and out of the sea of big people, legs packing the wet sidewalks in the street. I started sliding on the slick street, so I kicked off my school shoes. I wasn't used to shoes. They slowed me down. I kept dodging through legs. I had to find out if Bookie was okay. Finally, I was able to squeeze close to Bookie. He was sprawled on top of Mug's chest. He was still sobbing. Now other cops were pulling him off Mug, who was groaning. There was something wrong with Mug's arms, bent kind of funny. I'm sorry, Muggy, Bookie bawled. Bookie seemed alive and well, so time for me to vanish. I heard Whisper Whisper shouting, but farther away in the crowd now. I heard, Hey, watch it, mister, from annoyed people he was probably shoving over. I kept dodging through the legs until I reached a handy alley that I knew led to a shortcut I could slip through. A dark door to a speakeasy that held another dark door in the back, opening outside to the next block. Hey, who let that raggedy kid in here? Swells shrieked. Others laughed and toasted me with their drinks, which were illegal, being it was 1932, with prohibition and all. I was out to the other side before the bouncers grabbed me. I could have hopped the Angel's Flight tram to ride up steep Bunker Hill from the downtown Los Angeles flatlands. That was the easy way, and the easiest way for me to get caught. Whisper Whisper no doubt had more cops searching for me now. Besides, Angel's Flight was too close to the Ratty Monkey Island tourist trap to be safe. And to think, only hours before I was so excited about Bookie taking me to Monkey Island with its glass roof and for real monkeys. Now I felt like a chump. I took the hard way, scrambling up the steep hillside, clawing in the wet dirt, keeping hidden in the bushes. It was tough climbing in this stupid dress. School didn't allow the sailor suits with pants that I had been wearing. Even better for climbing would have been the tough old overalls I used to steal when I used to be a street punk. That's before I started living in Creepy House this summer with Tootsie LaFemme, the former silent screen vamp, and her assistant Gilbert Grossman, who looked like a goblin with his bald head and scar over his eye. Creepy House was where I headed. It was home now. That's an idea I still getting used to. Home. I was a mess by the time I got to the top of Bunker Hill. Being a mess was how I usually was. I found an out-of-the-way spot to hide, behind a slop bin, in the shadows away from streetlights. I'd pause here until I was sure no cops had followed me. The fading rain tapped my curly rat's nest of dishwater blonde hair and dribbled down my freckled face that kids at school made jokes about. The day started out hot, but now, with the sun long gone from the cloudy night sky, I shivered in my soaking dress. I probably should backtrack and tell you how this, the worst day of my life, started. School. That's right. It started with my first day back at school.